But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. Dancing in the red and gold.
What's up, Faithful? Welcome to the 49er Faithful UK Live. As always, I'm your host, Paul Hope. And once again, I have a very, very special guest joining me to break down all things 49ers. Journalist, podcaster, and a content creator with a unique perspective on the world of sports. Tonight's guest is also a social event manager for Dizan. She has her own website, is a dedicated mother to her beautiful daughter, and a proud dog mama. But best of all, Faithful, she's a member of the 49er Faithful UK, someone I'm lucky enough to call a friend. She joined us in Leeds for the first official watch party. She was at Levi's for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, other side of the stadium, but it still counts. And now she's joining little old me on the 49er Faithful UK Live. It is with great delight I introduce my friend, Crystal Scuor, to the 49er Faithful UK.
Hello, everyone. Oh my God, Kay, that intro was absolutely fantastic. So I'm here for it. It's kind of odd just hearing all the things that you're known for and that you do from somebody else's perspective. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on, Paul. And yeah, I can't believe we were at that same game and we didn't get to run into each other. I'm kind of sad, but it is what it is. It's all in the stars for us to see each other again, hopefully in London or in Leeds for another 49ers takeover game, which I'm so excited for, which is actually where we got to meet for the first time. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that again. But thank you for having me on. And thanks to everybody for joining us tonight.
No, you're welcome. So, you may have noticed from your introduction that I've done my homework, and some of the wording I took straight from your website. So, in a little moment, everybody, I will be flying the banner across the bottom for Crystal's website. But I just wanted to say thank you for joining me. This is your first appearance on our channel since we've relaunched. As I said to you off air, it feels like it's been a minute since we last connected. And as I said to John Chapman on Monday, it was always a dream of mine, Crystal, that when we relaunched the YouTube channel 18 months ago, to be able to get great guests like you on. So really, really do appreciate you joining me.
This is honestly, you're one of the only people that I agree to do podcasts with. I don't actually go on a lot of podcasts. The last one I went on was with Ryan Hensley and Grant Cohn, which was really fun. But I felt like I was like, kind of going to bat a little bit for our guys because you know how Grant can be sometimes, and Ryan's very even keel. But yeah, you're just a phenomenal person, and so of course I had to come and join you on this new channel. The rebrand is amazing, and everything that you're doing is fantastic. So kudos to you, man. You just crush it in everything you do, and I'm in awe of everything that you have done with the 49er Faithful UK, but everything that's in the pipeline. I just know that you're bound for really big things. So all the shout outs to you too.
No, I appreciate that. So the chat is on fire. We've got our good friend Ty Alston in the house. Believe it or not, he showed up 2 hours early so he wouldn't miss this one. So that is dedication. I have to say, that is probably the best comment, Ty, that I've had since starting this channel. And yes, it definitely counts more if you click the like button before the show than during the show. So I'm just going to change the banner at the bottom. I said to Crystal when we were planning this, I do want to promote what the community do. So I know we're officially in draft season at the moment, and the 2024 draft is literally 8 days away. And the focus of all the content creators at the moment is on the draft. But I didn't want to dive straight into draft talk. Selfishly, because next week, Crystal, we are going to do our usual live at this time. And with it being a couple of days before the draft, as you can appreciate, it's going to be very draft heavy. But you mentioned Grant and Ryan. I have to say, Grant is a bit of a split character on this side of the pond. People either love him or hate him. I'm kind of on the fence at the moment. But when I saw he had you on his show, I was there straight away. I was in the comments. I was supporting. Yeah. And I think you need to give yourself a pat on the back because you more than held your own. And I do have to say, I thought Grant was quite good, as in he respected your takes. And I think he had you on for the right reasons, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. I honestly, Brian was the one that reached out to me and wanted to have me on the show. And he's somebody that I actually really love what he's doing as well. And I think, his grind and just his daily aspirations that he puts out there and how inspirational he can be outside of 49ers talk. I really appreciate him. But Grant and I, we go way back. I actually used to write for him at Sports Illustrated. And so I know how he can be, and I knew what I was getting myself into. And he is very respectful of all of my takes. I know back when we had Jimmy G and everything too, I was pro Jimmy G. Of course, a lot of people know that I've professed my love for him many times, and Grant was very respectful of that as well. And we all know how Grant felt about Jimmy G, right? So yeah, no, he's split with a lot of people, but I still think at the heart, he's a really good person. I think he's also really good at what he does in order to gain engagement. So I know that there's somewhat of, you put on a show for people. That's literally what we're doing right now. And he's really good at doing that.
Yeah. So we're joined by El Presidente. He clearly hasn't seen some of the promo that we put out, Crystal. So when we
No.
relaunched the 49er Faithful UK Live a few months ago, we started to set a topic so people knew what we were talking about. And the topic tonight, Lee, is Crystal. I wanted to get some of the big content creators on because a couple of weeks ago, Crystal, I did a show called Content Creators, We Are Inevitable. And I took a look at all the many, many 49ers content creators out there.
So many.
Yeah. But when I look back to my journey as a 49ers fan and the content creators that I started to follow, we have new members joining our community all the time. Literally 20 minutes before we've gone live tonight, someone's joined the Facebook group. They've reached out and said they know nothing about American football. What podcasts can they watch? Which content creators can they go and follow? And I was like, go watch that episode from a couple of weeks ago, and you'll be able to see who you like the best. So a big part of what we're trying to do here, Lee, is showcase the awesome community that we're creating and those people that are a part of it. And I would say that you're a huge part of what we're trying to do. I can't even remember how we connected. It was probably on Twitter. It was probably bouncing around the different shows. And as I said in my intro, you have a lot going on at the moment. So I did want you to be able to tell us a little bit more. I mean, social events manager at Design, dedicated mom, website, covering the team. I mean, I struggle and I only follow the 49ers. I don't do other sports. So it must be a juggling act for you at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think when that quote, that's when you love what you do, never work a day in your life, right? I feel like that's something that I've always set out to live by. And so obviously the number one priority for me is I have my daughter and she's everything to me. I was on maternity leave for the last year and I had the option to go back to the company that I was working with, Traction. They were an esports company and they just weren't the fit for me at the moment. I felt like I wasn't ready to go back to a full-time position that was a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I live in Italy and I just wanted to spend more time with my daughter. And I made the decision to not go back to my job. And from there, I decided, okay, you know what? DAZN has this amazing opportunity for me to be doing social event managing, which is basically like what we're doing right now. If you're on YouTube and there's the comment section, they have that going on for any kind of live situation for any sport. So I cover a lot of La Liga games, Serie A games, obviously living in Italy. And then when the NFL season is on, I'm their dedicated NFL girl because they know how much I love NFL. I'm actually the reason that they started doing watch parties for the NFL, which is pretty cool. So to have my name and, my recognition of being able to host these live watch party events for DAZN, which is one of the leading broadcasting companies and streamers in the world. It's pretty crazy. So I work part-time for them. It's a very part-time freelance kind of situation, but I do love it. And I basically put together all the polls that you're going to see in the chat. I come through with all the stats that you're going to see on both sides of the teams and just do a lot of live sport interaction while the game is on. And for me, that's always been a goal of mine to work in live sports. Now, the social media management part of it is a bit different than the path that I thought I was going to take. But that being said, just the community that I have with my coworkers and everything and what I've been able to build there and just the support that I get as a female. I'm the only female doing the job, which is kind of crazy. I really love it. So I'm doing that very part-time. It's great to do with my daughter again. She's number one. She's up here. DAZN is in there. I'm doing some content. I have my podcast, Crystal Ballin. Last season, obviously I was a new mom. I didn't realize how big of a deal, the schedule is with having a daughter and putting her down for her naps and being very on top of certain things. So I didn't get to do as many of the podcasts as I would have liked to. But that being said, most of the time I tried to aim to have, an analyst on from the opposing team. And I talked to them about a game preview. Like, let's say we were playing the Steelers, obviously, in week 1. I interviewed my friend Sam Holt, she's a huge Steelers fan. She works for Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life. We talked about the game. We talked about fantasy football players, all that fun stuff. So I tried to be consistent and do that every single week. Obviously, some weeks it didn't work out, but I was very proud of what I accomplished with that. And then now I just started to rebrand my website, which used to be Northern Faithful, coming from Canada. Oh, thank you. I got this when I went to Vegas for the Super Bowl. I don't want to talk about that though, but not right now at least. But yeah, so I rebranded my website from Northern Faithful, coming from Canada, obviously up north. I thought it was a cheeky, fun little thing, but instead I've just switched it over now to what you see, crystalscuor.com. So I'm trying to do this whole thing where I'm going all in on myself. Of course, I work a little bit for DAZN, but the plan this year is to just all the opportunities I want to create for myself. I'm just going to go for it. And I do have really fun news to share at the end of this. So make sure we come back to that, Paul. It's a breaking news situation that Paul gets to be the source, which is kind of cool. But we'll come back to that. But this is something that, I'm going all in on myself this year. But of course, daughters first, and then you got to put yourself second, right? I think our life is about doing what we want in our life and being happy. And at the end of the day, being proud of what we have accomplished. And I'm finally on that path. And I'm very lucky and very appreciative of what I have right now.
Well, we're joined by John Chapman. So he shared 2 of the best I've ever met. Appreciate all the kindness you both put into the community. So when I was on with John on Monday, he said that he loves seeing the side of me that I share on social media, the family man. I'm a girl dad. So obviously when you came over to Leeds with Chris, I've spotted this Boston Celtics football there. I can see this basketball, in the background.
We're representing. Playoffs are happening, right?
I saw that he's been over there. I follow Chris on social media, and similar to what John said to me, I love seeing that you're putting your roots down in Italy. I love the fact that you're juggling being a working mum. You're still putting the content out there. Now, I did toy with the idea of getting you on tonight to talk as a female perspective of the NFL. But the more I thought about it, I don't really care, male, female, non-binary, transgender, whatever label people want. I wanted you on tonight because it's been a while since we've connected, and you were good enough to share with me that you had some breaking news. Now, Lee will be chuckling because I'm not normally one for keeping a secret, but I've kept this one under wraps. So in true Lee Gowland style, we are going to tease that Crystal has some information to share, but it won't be just yet, people. That'll be far too early for us to share that. So I'm just catching up on the chat. Now, what I do like about the Wednesday show is people seem to have access to my notes. I'm sure Alex Simpson has a camera. So we couldn't do the 49 Faithful UK live without touching upon some of the news. Now, I saw this break on social media yesterday when Brad Graham shared some awesome videos of Trent Taylor.
That is the best.
I tried to have some phone-free time yesterday, and I didn't really take much notice of what was going on. But it seems to be that the Trent Taylor news has been well received by some people and not by others. So I thought I would get your opinion on this, because I've got my own opinion, but I wanted to know what you made of this signing and whether it should be big news or something to be upset about.
Honestly, as a player, Trent, like, some people can argue he didn't really make much of a difference on the team, but for me, I just thought he was a really great person. You know what I mean? Like, I always loved the team mentality that he had, the way that the guys talked about him in the locker room, and like just his mentality getting in and out there. When he left the team, like he seemed devastated. He went to the Bengals, of course. I always really liked him. Again, like, he's not like that difference maker. You don't think of him like a George Kittle or like even like a Juice. I always call him Juice Check. Kyle Juszczyk, obviously. Like, there's difference makers on
what I do.
Juice. I know. Remember when we were at the takeover party and they're like, "How do you spell Juszczyk?" And I was just like, "Juice." But yeah, no, Trent, to me, I'm excited about it. I mean, how couldn't you be? It's somebody coming back to a place that they've already played at before. And, you know, like, he wants to accomplish something big with the team. He said it. He tweeted it out last night too. He was like, no better place deserving to bring another one home, like another Lombardi home. So I'm hoping that we get it done with him on the team. he's going to be fighting for a position, I believe. I mean, like, you see how stacked our roster is, right? So yeah, and like we don't know if he's going to be doing the punt returns. I think I was seeing something about that. So we'll see. I'm excited for it. I think it's a good fit. We know what he's like, so we'll see.
I was just checking my notes. I had something clever written down, but I can't find it. For me, we're in draft season at the moment. And when you're doing the mock drafts and you're looking at the draft picks, a lot of people are talking about best player available. Now, as you've just said there, he's been signed to be the punt returner. Nobody wants to see Ronnie Bell returning punts. And with the new rules where you're going to have 2 punt returners on the field, I think it's a no-brainer. It's a
Yeah.
low risk, high reward. He's good in the locker room. Now, no one's saying that he's going to come in and replace Brandon Ayuk. And I think what a lot of people have done at the moment, the 49ers, we've got such a passionate fan base. You can go on Twitter, you can drop a hot take, you can just get numbers. Like you said, Mr. Cohen, who isn't El Presidente's favorite content creator, when I realized that he does this to be paid, he's not a 49ers fan. I don't do this to get paid. I'm a fan in the UK that loves to jump on and talk football. But obviously, Grant has his own agenda. And once you realize that, and you take the emotion out of it, you think, okay, I can get on board with that. But Trent Taylor isn't going to be replacing Brandon Ayuk. I think I saw an article yesterday, Crystal, where Matt Burrows, Miyoko, Peter Schrager, all friends of the show, I'm sure they're tuned in right now watching. They have the Niners taking a wide receiver at 31 in the draft.
I saw that. I saw Pete do that, and I was like, what? What's going on here?
So I subscribed to John's website at the weekend in preparation for him coming on the show. I downloaded his awesome war guide, which has 205 players. When you think we're going to draft 10, 205 is crazy. But there's a couple of wide receivers that people are surprised at. Now, I don't think we're going to take a wide receiver at 31, and that's not because we've signed Trent Taylor, but the faithful wanted to know. So we've ticked that one off. Now, the off-season program started yesterday, Crystal. And one of your favorite players, I've seen a few tweets that you've paid, you've got a nice campaign going on. You did the pay Debo, you've got the pay BA. Were you surprised to see him turn up for the voluntary workout yesterday?
Was I surprised? No, I think that says a lot about his character. I do think that obviously so many people were drawing comparisons to what the Debo situation was last season. And they're like, oh, Debo was in his ear, like, do this next, unfollow the team, like all that stuff. But I feel like it just goes to show that BA wants to be in the Bay. He wants to play here. He's a man of, his his workouts and everything. He gets into the gym and he works hard. He doesn't want to get back in that doghouse, whether it's in with Shanahan or whether it's in another team. I think it doesn't surprise me at all that he was there. I don't think he seems like that kind of guy that's trying to cause drama. Like, from what I've seen of, especially this last season, he wants to be the best player that he can be. And I don't think you're going to be that player if you don't show up. And I think he's showing up not only for the team, but for himself. Like, that's, at the end of the day, that's why he's there, right? So, no, it didn't surprise me at all.
No, I wasn't surprised, to be honest. It was good to see. I think under the new contract rules, the players don't have much leverage. And we saw it with Debo. I mean, I know you were like me. You weren't worried. You knew Debo Samuel was getting paid. I loved the fact that you were able to get some traction on the tweets that you did. Again, because you do this kind of content creating, you get used to the cycle. So at the moment, we're in draft mode. Now, if a team comes along and offers us a king's ransom for Ayuk, the team are going to consider that. They've said that. But unless we get that, any trade for me would have to be done before the draft. And then after that, he'll get his money when the Armstead savings kick in. Because when you look at the way we've released Armstead, his money doesn't kick in until June. And when you look at the Kittles, Warners, Borsas, Debo, they all got their money in training camp. So I'm not worried. Now, the next part I wanted to ask about, I saw on your social media earlier, so I know you've seen it. I was going to ask if you'd seen Brock Purdy, QB1.
Oh my God. Yeah.
How nice is it to say QB1 with no controversy on the Pat McAfee show, but you tweeted it out. Now, I watched that in my lunch break today, and I thought it was absolutely awesome. I mean, we're pretty big fans of Brock Purdy on this
Yeah.
side of the pond, and I know you're taken with our QB1, but what did you make of him on Pat McAfee yesterday?
Okay, so first off, Pat McAfee is one of my idols. Like, I absolutely look up to him. I think he's somebody that, you know what, I'm going to come back to something later on when I share my news just about Pat McAfee and why he's a big deal to me. But I love his show. I'm a big fan of the program. I watch all the time. Like, it's one of the ones that comes on at 6 p.m. for me. So I have it on when I'm watching dinner or eating or making dinner, whatever it may be. Watching dinner. I think I said I'm watching it while I'm making dinner. But
I knew what you
yeah,
meant.
so
It's okay.
I obviously watched Brock Purdy on there. I had to. And, you know, the first thing they start off with is him sitting there in his John Deere sweater, right? And they announced that he just signed like a contract with them and he's going to be the face of John Deere. And like, just the commercial was so cute. I don't know. There's so much that I absolutely love. But for me, there was a couple different takeaways. Obviously, you know, Pat talked to him about what it takes to be successful in Kyle Shanahan's offense, because Kyle Shanahan's offense is, you know, that like, there's like the meme of, what's his name? Charlie Day, the one that he has all these things going on in the background and it's like conspiracy theories. That's what I think of when I think of Shanahan's offense. It's like, you got to have a board like that with all these different lines going to everything to try and understand and comprehend what's going on with his offense. So it is kind of breath or mind blowing that Brock can just step in there and figure it out, you know, when a lot of other guys I don't think have been able to get a grasp on it the same way. And so Pat talked to him about that and how he's been able to, you know, win the NFC Championship game, lead the team to a Super Bowl, become the NFL passer rating leader with 113 passer rating, which is insane. He had 4,280 yards, 31 touchdowns, only 11 interceptions in 16 games. He surpassed Jeff Garcia's in-season passing record held, you know, with the 49ers. So that's pretty crazy. He's literally the guy that holds that record for our franchise right now. It's crazy. To be able to do that in Kyle's offense is nuts. So the fact that Pat asked him about that, I really love that. And he replies like, this is what I had to write it down. Cause like, honestly, this is why I love Brock Purdy. He's like, man, this is the first thing he says, man, it's not all me. I've had really great coaches around me, Greasy, Kubiak. They've invested their time in him. It's a grind studying. And he says that it's like another language, obviously. But he gave all the credit to Kyle. He gave all the credit to his coaches around him. And obviously, like, his teammates, he always hypes them up. He's a completely humble dude. And every time he's asked about anything that he's doing, he throws it to the people around him. And I think he did that again with Pat McAfee, you know, and he's always saying, yes, sir. Like, he's so respectful. I just think there's something about his aura. He's just a really great dude. And he's always saying, you know, it's the great dudes around me that make me look good, that make me great. And Pat, I love Pat told him that he's the greatest Mr. Relevant of all time. So I was like, yeah, like, he's not even Mr. Relevant. He's relevant AF. But yeah, I mean, their whole conversation was just very down to earth. It's exactly what you would think, you know, Brock would be like in real life. I think he's exactly who he is when he's talking to people. When you see him in the media, he doesn't seem like he's putting on this show for the media. It's just laid back Brock sitting there in his John Deere outfit, you know, driving a tractor around, going and helping his wife's family, like on the farm in Iowa. It's just beautiful. I just really love the kid. And I appreciated a lot of the questions that Pat asked him. So yeah, it's something I've watched it twice already. I really loved it.
Yeah. So Rob D, who is one of our OGs, he's joined in the chat and he's put the commercial didn't make him want to buy a tractor, but he does want some onion dip now. And I think for us on this side of the pond, we all went all in on Jimmy. We all
Yeah.
went all in on Trey Lance. And then when
Yeah.
we drafted Brock Purdy, Lee and Najee were out at Vegas at the time. It was the 2022 draft class. Lee was on record with saying we're going to take a QB. And we are clinging on to the fact that Lee and Najee were there whilst Brock was drafted. And when we did our
Ew.
season preview show before that season, Lee made a bold prediction that Purdy would throw the winning pass in the Super Bowl. A few people laughed. I know Larry Kruger was very high on Brock Purdy
Yeah.
early on. And a lot of my non-Niners friends still say he's a system QB, he's a game manager. And I'm smirking because when you read all those stats off there, and we've had some decent quarterbacks in our history, but top of the tree for the yards in a season's Brock Purdy. And like you've said, he's hit the ground running. That interview, if you haven't seen it, head over to Pat McAfee's YouTube page, head over to Twitter. It's about 25 minutes in total. And I was beaming from ear to ear, because for me, there is no controversy. He was very humble, as you've said.
Mhm.
He was talking about some of the work he's going to do. And I think we've got to remember, Chrissy, he's healthy heading into this off
Yeah.
season. So working with Kyle and getting the mechanics of that offense. Now, I subscribe to The Athletic because getting some of the coverage in the UK isn't as easy. And it's only a couple
Yeah.
of pounds a month. And I get all the articles off Mallorca, Burrows, Lombardi. And I saw an article a few months ago that I've mentioned a couple of times, but I'm going to mention it to you. When we traded for CMC, he
Mm.
wasn't allowed a playbook until he passed his medical. So he landed on the Friday, passed his medical on the Saturday. We would play in the Chiefs on the Sunday. So they
Mhm.
needed somebody to go through some of the plays with Brock, with CMC. So little old QB3 Brock gets rolled out on a Saturday afternoon. And CMC said this kid knew the playbook. He knew the language. He was
Oh,
basically telling him where to line up, where to go. So their chemistry that you see now was day one. And
yeah.
hearing Brock talk yesterday about the locker room accepted him. And I was like you, I was a big Jimmy fan. And I think the locker
Mhm.
room were big Jimmy fans. So I think that was part of the transition, wasn't it? When we gave up all that capital for Trey, with the dressing room going to accept him. But we can put the Mr. Irrelevant tag to bed now because he's pretty
Yeah.
good as our QB1. And as Ty has said there, the secret was Lee was in the war room. And that's how we knew the Niners were drafting a QB.
I love it.
So, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, we are only 8 days away from the 2024 NFL draft. Now, I'm fully into mock draft mode at the moment. Lee, Gareth, and Nadji are taking some family time at the moment. I've been holding the ship, and it's the first time that I've done mock drafts this late. Now, I haven't done as many as Lee normally does, Crystal, but do you like
Mhm.
a mock draft, or is it something you stay away from?
Honestly, okay, so I've tried to do them every now and then. The thing that I feel like I'm not super competent with is picking what the other teams need to address. I don't obviously cover every single team, so it's hard for me to think, oh, this team's going to take this, that, whatever, right? So I always just do it where I have them speed through whoever the other teams are going to take. And then once it gets to the 49ers, I give it a go. And I've done one mock draft for this coming draft. In the past, I've done a few other ones. You mentioned the draft that Brock Purdy was drafted in 2022 in Vegas. I was actually there for that too. I went and hung out with John and he had me on his podcast and we were trying to pick who the 49ers were going to take. It was really awesome. So I was in attendance when Brock got picked too. It was kind of crazy. Like it's a full circle moment for me. Yeah, he's a good dude and I'm really happy to see him get his opportunity and his chance. But for me, mock drafts, I kind of stay away from them. I'm not going to lie, but I did give one a little bit of a shot and I rejected a trade offer that I got from the Jags to take pick 31. So obviously the simulator, it does whatever it thinks it's going to happen. But the Jags had made us an offer and it was a bunch of like next year or whatever. I don't even know what it was. It was a bunch of stuff that I was just like, no, I'm not down with this. They wanted our 31. I rejected it. And I took my first one, offensive tackle Jordan Morgan out of Arizona. So Purdy grew up in Arizona, and I kind of like that, Morgan played there, and there was a little bit of a connection there. And I do think that for me, I always say this, offensive lines save lives. And I think that our offensive line is the part that needs to kind of be addressed a little bit. Colton McKivitz, I think he should have a bit of healthy competition at right tackle. So we can always fix the offensive line. And yeah, I Trent Williams, he's turning 36 this summer. I don't know if you knew that. Obviously, I absolutely love him. He is a beast on the field. He's just amazing. He's one of my favorite players of all time. And to have him on the 49ers, I'm like, holy smokes, like he plays for us. This is crazy. But he's not getting any younger and he does miss some games in the season too. So I think that the offensive line is a position that needs to be addressed. And Morgan's somebody who stood out to me. He was available on the board for me. He's who I picked. And yeah, to give him McKivitz maybe a little fire under his tushy, like why not, right? So that's who I've got. I did see, you were saying that you've looked at what like Pete and a couple of other guys have been drafting and who they think the Niners are going to take at 31. I have seen some analysts saying potentially that we could draft a cornerback, which I thought was interesting because we obviously have Tarvarius Ward and Diamador Lenore, but both of them are going to be unsigned a year from now. And so, we might need to tighten that up and figure that out and have somebody, get in, start to learn, start to develop slowly behind the other dudes, and then be a dog down the road. And so I have seen that they think Iowa State TJ Tampa is going to be chosen. which he actually played with Purdy. He has that comfort with him as a leader. He's on the other side of the ball, obviously, but it's kind of that connection there. And that was interesting to me because that's not the immediate thing I was thinking was to take a cornerback. But those are the two that I kind of saw come up in my mock draft. And I thought, yeah, that's a little spicy. I kind of like that. So yeah, Jordan Morgan's somebody I'm kind of all in on.
Well, Jordan Morgan is one of Brad Graham's draft crushes, and I'll make you laugh here. So obviously, girl dad Tracy takes a passing interest in football. I was cooking tea last week, and Brad and Larry were arguing over Jordan Morgan's arm size. And Tracy just turned to me and was like, "Are they actually talking about a grown man's arm size?" I was like, when you say it out loud, it sounds pretty bad, but I had to explain why. So Morgan's one that I've had on my draft board. Now, the thing that I take into consideration with the mock draft, so we've got a good friend of the show who's actually a Dallas Cowboys fan, believe it or not. So Paul Redman runs a podcast called Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. And he asked me to be the 49ers in his mock draft. So I get the text message yesterday morning with the 30 picks that the other teams have made. And I'm not going to lie, I was really surprised at some of the players that other people had taken. There was a lot of QBs taken in that first 30, which stunned me. And I have the war guide of John. I was looking at my own homework. Some of the players I could pick at 31. So I can't give a name because that would spoil the podcast. But I did go down a similar path to you. It wasn't Morgan.
Okay.
But it was a similar position of need. I'm looking forward to that pod dropping because you do all these mock drafts, and like you said, Kool-Aid McKinstry is the cornerback that I've taken at 31. I think we have 7 cornerbacks on the roster at the moment, but like you said, outside of Mooney and Lenore, there's not really anyone that's there. And I think the writing's on the wall for Sammy Womack. Chapman talked about that on our show the other day. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, I'm just going to catch up on the chat because my good friend Lee Gowland has put a comment here, Chrissy. So I'm not known for my pronunciation. So Lee wants us to draft up for Mr. Fashion You so he can hear me butcher his first name. So I hope we don't trade for him. Rob, appreciate the love. So Rob is happy that I've called him the OG. So like I said, since we've relaunched the channel, I've seen familiar faces in the chat, which is always good to know. Stay Faithful podcast. We do have one of the best locker rooms in the league. I'll agree with you there.
I'd say the best. Let's correct that. We have the best.
Now, Lee believes there's going to be some movement around the board this year, and he's excited to see what Jan has in store. Surely we take one of the, I think he means the legacy picks. Now, don't answer that question at the moment because we may get onto that a little bit later. So I'm just going to fly this. So at the moment, we have 10 picks, which are going across the bottom. I'm not going to read them all out. Now, a lot of people believe that out of those 10 picks, we need to hit on 4 starters because you look at the roster, you look at the contracts that we're having to pay. We haven't had a first round pick for a couple of years. A few people want us to package those picks up to get plug-in starters. Where do you stand? Would you like us to draft all 10? Or would you like to see, like Lee said there, some moving around and kind of, putting a couple of the later round picks together to move up and get someone that you like? Where do you stand on that?
Interesting. Okay, so I hadn't really thought about that, but I mean, obviously, if we can move up and get somebody that's on the board that we need to address, like I know some people are saying that we need to address wide receiver, which I don't, in my opinion, I don't think we need to address the wide receiver position unless obviously Ayuk goes. But I think that's juicy. If somebody's willing to take some of our package of the later rounds, why not? But I will counter, and I'd say that, in the Shanny and Lynch era, the late round picks have been pretty awesome. They find those hidden gems. Do I have to mention Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant? He literally was the last person that was drafted in 2022. And I would argue he's one of the best players in the NFL at this current moment. People can go off about what they want. I'm going to stand by my word. He's the second best quarterback in the league as of right now. So, and some of his stats last year, I would even put him above Mahomes at some of the stuff he was doing. I know people are going to come for me for that. But that being said, I don't know. I kind of like the late round picks. I like what is left on the board that people may not see the value in, that John and Kyle might be like, you know what? this guy's got something that we like. Or it's not even those guys. It's like Greasy, people who have studied these kind of things that might be in their ear and be like, hey, look at this guy, like not a quarterback this time around, but maybe there's, like a cornerback that we might be wanting later on that's on the board that is going under the table that people aren't really taking notice of. So I say we stick with what we have. Of course, yeah, if we needed a lot more to address, we have a team full of superstars right now. I don't think there's anything that's like really humming in the ears other than, for me, offensive linemen. Other than that, I think we're bringing back most of our dudes, right? So like, it's not that we're sitting here in trouble. I know people were going off about the punt return situation because obviously we lost Ray McLeod, right? And now that we got Trent Taylor back, like I'm not so worried about what we saw with Bell. I love Bell. I really appreciated some of the things that he did for us, but you don't want to see that happening, right? Like you need a guy that is going to be able to return. So aside from that, for me, maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm sitting here looking at what we already have. And I'm like, we were in the Super Bowl. We were that close. And I'm assessing, okay, well, what do we really need? Dre Greenlaw, obviously, like he's coming off an injury that we don't know where he's going to be at. So maybe there's somebody there we want to snag that we'll find later round 2. I don't know. I think that John and Kyle know what they're doing. I trust in them. I trust in the process that they've done because they've done a pretty good job, solid job with a lot of late round picks. George Kittle was round 7. I don't know if you knew that. Was it 5?
5, yeah. I believe he was round 5. Someone will correct us. See, look at the chat.
Somebody correct me.
This is what I meant. So I didn't mean 4 immediate starters, and I love the chat on a Wednesday. It's 4 future starters to be specific. Ooh. Because as you said, you look at the draft classes the last couple of years, there's been a few, but you said that we were going to talk about some of our late round draft crushes.
Oh, Kittle was round 6. Sorry, round 6.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that I saved that. Now, we do have a very draft-heavy show planned for next Wednesday, people, where I will be joined by 2 of the 49er Faithful UK's finest, Neil Graham and Eric Oregard. Now, the thumbnail that Wayne has produced for this is fantastic, and I cannot wait to share this one. So we are going to move off the draft talk in a moment, because a few people are going to give away my would you rather if we continue down this road, because obviously I'm giving a few hints there. So because I know we've got some other stuff to talk about that you want to break, I am going to do this right now, everybody. So, Crystal, when we started this channel, we didn't used to, well, sorry, I'll rephrase that. We came up with this segment called Would You Rather? And every week, me and the co-host would ask each other a question. And it quickly became, who could be more evil to the other person? Then at the start of the year, when we rebranded the channel, we kind of stepped away from Would You Rather. But I started to see other people using it. And I have to admit, the feedback that I got was it needed to return home. It needed to come back to the 49er Faithful UK. So as I've said, people, it's officially draft season. So I thought it would be rather fitting for us to go down this road on tonight's segment. It is well documented that our very own Lee Gowland, aka El Presidente, was lucky enough to announce the Sammy Womack pick 172 in Vegas in 2022. So with that in mind, Chrissy, you have been hand-selected by the 49ers to head over to Detroit, and you are going to announce a pick this year. However, as the chat keep alluding to, we do have 1 or 2 players in the draft with ties to the organization, so-called legacy picks, as people are calling them. So just like Lee, he will be forever linked to Sammy Womack. So just bear in mind, whoever you choose out of the options I'm about to give you, you would be forever linked to not only this player, but his family. So my would you rather is simply this. They've narrowed it down to 2 players that they were going to allow you to decide on the day. Ooh. So the 49ers are giving you the card. You get to walk on that stage at Detroit, and you get to decide who will follow in his dad's footsteps and become a San Francisco 49er. Option 1, you select Brendan Rice, making Jerry very happy. Or option 2, you select Frank Gore Jr., making Frank very happy but upsetting Jerry in the process. So my would you rather is which player are you picking and why?
Okay, so for me, this is a tough one because Jerry Rice is obviously a legend. He is absolutely legendary. I wasn't a 49ers fan at the time that he was playing because I was a tiny little bean. Like I don't even know if I was alive for some of the time he was playing, but he's obviously a legend. Everything that he does, and he shows up to all the games, his big chains, everything about him. He's somebody I have on my board of who I'd love to interview one day. He's like the top guy. And Brendan Rice, I've watched a lot of his film. I could just picture him in this offense. I could picture him and Purdy just going off. Like I love what I see out of him. And so that for me is just like, yeah, okay, no brainer. But then you've got Frank Gore and Frank Gore Jr. And when I first started following the team, Frank Gore was on the team and I just absolutely loved him. He was one of the best running backs that I had ever seen. Like when I was starting to follow the team, like obviously he's our guy. I'm a little biased, but everywhere else around the league, they didn't have a Frank Gore, Frank the Tank. Like I saw so many games. I think I was in St. Louis when the Rams were still there. Kaepernick was the quarterback. You got Kaepernick in the background. And Frank Gore ran for like 4 touchdowns in that game. He like saved our ass. It was amazing. It's one of the best games I've been to. And one of the only wins I saw, which was crazy. And then we got a win when we were, in against the Bucks in November, which was nice. So I saw a win there too. But other than that, I hadn't seen a lot of wins in my time as a fan. I saw a lot of losses in Seattle because obviously they reigned over us for a while. I'm getting off topic, but
No, it's
so
good.
obviously Frank Gore is like a special place in my heart because of that. But I will say, and this is a little fun little tidbit of why I'm going to choose this guy. Jerry Rice has his own company called Goat Fuel. It's like this energy drink kind of situation. And I don't know how, but somebody had reached out to me from his team and was like, look, we want to send you a whole big batch of this. And they were going to ship it to Italy and everything. And they got me to do some promotional stuff for my Instagram. I had to like put up a couple videos for them and worked alongside Jerry Rice's company, which I thought was really cool. I never got to speak with him, but I spoke a lot with his PR people. They all seemed very lovely and amazing. And I just felt like I already had that bit of a connection there. So if I'm going to be linked to anyone, I think it's got to be Jerry Rice. I want to support his Goat Fuel brand. I want to support his son being the GOAT next in line. I'm going Brendan Rice for sure. I'm taking him.
No, I like that. So people in the chat were asking me to be nice. Now I did warn Crystal that I would be doing this segment. And there's a few comments to saying that it was a little bit of a tough question. Now, I'll be honest, when I was putting this together, I always run them by Tracy, especially when I've got such a great guest like you. Now, I was going to put an evil twist on where you had to phone the other person's dad who didn't get the job. So, for example, if you picked Frank Gore, you'd have to ring Jerry. But I thought that would be too mean. I can't put you on the spot like that. So, for what it's worth, if it was to be asked to me back, if you added Luke McCaffrey into the mix, I've kind of got a bit. If we can get Luke in the later rounds, he's my draft crush at the moment. I'm like you, 23 is my favorite player at the moment. And I'd love to see that legacy continue. I'm just basing it purely on that. I'm not saying that I've watched a lot of his game tape. I'm not saying we're going to jump up into the first round, but out of the 3, I would be happy coming away with Luke McCaffrey, which might upset a few people.
But Ed McCaffrey played for the 49ers. Also, the other McCaffrey brother played for the 49ers. He was on our practice squad. I can't remember his name. If somebody in the chat can say it. But that would be the 4th McCaffrey on the team if we did draft him, which would be nuts. And, like a CMC, LMC connection. You got your big brother there. I don't know. I kind of love that too. So if you had him in there, I think I might have chosen him too.
So a lot of people are happy we've brought it back. So I do want to say before we move off the segment, I won't be using it every single week, but the competitive side it's seen. So a few accounts were using Would You Rather and they were tagging our social media in, which is absolutely fine. You know me. I'll help anybody. Anybody wants anything promoting, let me know. So I thought I'm gonna bring that back a little bit. So thank you for playing along. Now I'm just going to take this comment off and I'm going to put the banner up because you teased everybody at the start, which I really, really did like. So I think it's time now. I'll put your website back up because I think you're going to put some of the details on there. You alluded to having some breaking news. And I think now is as good a time of any if you'll be kind enough to share this news with me and the UK faithful.
Yeah. Okay. So before I get into the full news of it, I do want to talk about an event that's super impressive. And somebody who was in the chat earlier, I don't know if he's still here. Shout out to Trey Coleman. He's somebody that's been telling me about this event for the past, now it's in its 4th year this year. And he said, you got to get out to this event. This is an amazing event. If you're going to cover anything, you're going to the draft, you're going to where the Super Bowl is being held, you got to go here. This is the event to go to. So the Dwight Clark Legacy Series is actually happening in just about a month from now on May 16th. So yesterday it would have been a month exactly. And it's at the California Theater in San Jose. It's hosted by NBC Bay Area's Laura Britt and Matt Mayelko. So big shout out to both of them. They're amazing at what they do. I look up to them in so many ways. I absolutely love everything they're doing. They're very professional. Matt is just phenomenal. Anyways, this year, they're featuring a panel of quarterbacks, including Steve Young, Jeff Garcia, Alex Smith, who I don't know if people know this. When I first started following the team, he was the quarterback that was with the 49ers. So Alex Smith I absolutely adore him. He's like one of the guys. Then obviously he lost his job to Kaepernick, but Alex Smith was everything. I love everything that he's done in the community. I love him as a broadcaster. I love his story of coming back from his leg injury. Like, it's just crazy. And then, of course, we have our guy, Mr. Irrelevant himself, Brock Purdy. So these 4 quarterbacks are going to be sitting on the panel. And plus, it's the presentation of the Dwight Clark Award, which will honor a current 49er player who best exemplifies Dwight's spirit and of teamwork and camaraderie. So it's a really amazing event. For anyone that wants to go, you can actually buy tickets at dwightclark.com. It's open to the public. It's just like a phenomenal, very just prestigious event, I would say. They put a lot into it. The people that promote this event and that put it all together, they're incredible people. It's now in its 4th year. As I was saying, it's an annual event that celebrates Dwight's legacy while also raising money for the Golden Heart Fund. So if you guys don't know what that is, it provides services and comprehensive support for former 49ers who are facing, a range of challenges in their lives after football. This specific event is very, I guess, special to me. It's something that I started to look into, obviously, after Trey mentioned it. But Dwight Clark obviously passed away from ALS. And my sister-in-law, her dad suffered from ALS. And when my brother and her first started dating, he had just been diagnosed with it. And he actually passed away from it pretty fast. It was a very severe situation for him. So Dwight Clark, obviously, I never got to see the legendary catch. I've seen all the film on it and everything. But from what I've heard, he was just a phenomenal person. And this night really honors who he was as a person and, the legacy that continues on the field, off the field with the current 49ers rosters, with the vets that have been there, with, the former players, everything like that. It's an event that I think out of all the events, it's close to my heart just because, I like to tell a story that kind of goes beyond the football field. I'm not all about the box score and everything. I gave you my draft pick and, who I'd love out of the legacy one, but for me, I love just watching the sport because of the guys that get out there and give everything they have. And I'm just passionate and I can just feel how much they put into it and what this means to them. And so I've always wanted to cover an event for the 49ers live in person. I've constantly been pushing to do that. And I've always been rejected. It's just something that I've dealt with a lot. But this year I reached out to the people who are hosting the event and the media guy that's in control of, approving media credentials and all that. And for the first time in my entire journalism career, I'm going to be at this event covering it as media for my own podcast. So the Crystal Ballin podcast, I got approved to go and cover it as a media member. I'll be sitting up there with the panel. I get to interview all the quarterbacks that are there. There's going to be a lot of other players. The player that gets honored, I know who the name is. I'm not going to say it, but I'll be in the room with all those guys and I'll get to create a lot of really cool content for you guys. I'll be writing a lot of articles for my website, crystalscuor.com, and hoping to do a little mini doc series that I'm going to have up on my website as well. And also on my YouTube channel. So Crystal Ballin is going to be popping, but yeah, this is the first time ever that I'm going to have a media access badge around me with my name on it, covering a 49ers event, and I'll get to chalk it up with Brock Purdy. And it's just a really big full circle moment. The fact that Alex Smith is going to be there too. And, the guy that was there with the team when I first started following to now who we have. And just, yeah, I'm very proud of myself. This is, as I was saying before, Pat McAfee is one of those people that I've always looked up to in this industry. And I remember he put out a video when he finally got to be a part of WWE and be in it. And he had always said, he paid for so many times to get on a plane and go with his own ticket just to put himself there. And I felt I resonated with that a lot because there's so many events that I've put myself there. And I've always had the hope that somebody will believe in me. Somebody's going to give me a chance. I've paid so many flights. Like I'm paying my way to go to San Jose for this event, but it's so worth it. So, that quote of Pat has stuck with me. And I just feel like if you truly believe in what you want to do in this life and you believe in yourself, whatever you want to accomplish, you will accomplish. And I think that a little Canadian journalist from, Vancouver, Canada, now living in Italy, is somehow got approved through my own podcast. I'm not doing this, for The Athletic or for somebody else. I'm doing it all for myself. And I just think that's so huge. And I'm very, very excited to get there and to create all the content and to do some cool interviews and hopefully bring you guys some pretty exclusive stuff. So I can't wait.
So now the cat is out the bag, everyone. That's why my tongue-in-cheek introduction was all Chrissy's amazing accomplishments. I knew there was going to be one to trump it all. And that's why I said it with a smile on my face. Best of all, you're a member of our community. But I did promise Crystal, that is the name of her website, Crystal Balling. At the bottom on the ticker tape, we've been running your website. And as I agreed for you to come on the show, I'll be retweeting that link out. Ty has said that the Dwight Clark event happens every year. Everyone should go if you can. I've known this news, Ty, for about a week, and I haven't dared tweet anything out about the event because I didn't want to break Chrissy's confidence. And I do have to say, I'm very touched that out of all the content creators, social media platforms, you could have gone on your own Instagram today and broke that news. And you reached out to me, like I said, about a week ago, and you asked permission if you could break that news on our channel. And I was like, of course. And you're right. I mean, I think that's why you talk about the underdog story. I think it's why we all resonate with Brock Purdy. He came in 7th round pick, Mr. Irrelevant. I look at me. I'm a 43, soon to be 44-year-old male who lives in the northeast of England. I work a mundane, boring job, Monday to Friday. I'm a family man. I do this as a hobby. To be able to talk to likes of Ty Alston, John Chapman, you've said yourself you don't go on many podcasts, but whenever I ask you to come on, you're more than happy to come on. So I'm absolutely delighted that you're getting this opportunity. So I'm not alone. So Alex Simpson, big congratulations. Jason, he said he's so jealous. Ty, congratulations. And I agree with Ty. He said that this is huge. Rob, congratulations. Let's have a little look. Dan, good to see you in the chat, buddy. He said that's awesome, Crystal. Way to go. And to be fair, it is a flex. But I've always found the energy from you. You haven't come on here and flexed it. We've got, 52 minutes into the show. And even the way you've broke that news, you are correct. You're having to pay for your own accommodation. It's your own hard work. If you haven't checked out Crystal's website, please do go and check it out. I checked it out earlier. Can't even get my words out. And I was stunned at some of the stuff that I didn't know you covered. Like I said, I just do NFL. And you're right in what you say, Crystal. You don't just cover the box scores. And I did lift that word from your website. You do put your unique perspective on there. I'm a big fan of what you're doing on social media. And I cannot wait to see all the tweets. You will have to obviously let me know how it goes. Maybe we'll get you back on once you're back home and you're all settled in. And you it'd be good to kind of follow up if that would be okay with you.
Of course, yeah.
So massive breaking news. Now, you've dropped the biggest bombshell of all. And I was going to say, was there anything else that you would like to promote? Because I have a few public service announcements that I have to give before we finish off. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us at the moment that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously this is the biggest event that I'm going to be covering ever. I'm so excited for it. But if you guys go to my website right now, it's I just did a rebrand. So I'm in the works of getting some new content and whatnot on there. I have a draft story that I want to put up. So stay tuned for that. I'm very, very much not deep into the college football stuff, but I give my takes on what I think they should do. And I always spin it with a little bit of, I kind of put what's going on in my life. And some people have, come down on me for doing this, but they say it's like a diary or journal entry. But my thing is that I try and put myself out there in a different way where everybody's covering the same subjects. So I'd rather have, things that have either happened or that are coming up or events that go on in our regular day-to-day lives that I try and parallel with some of the stuff that we're seeing within sport. And I try and just give my 2 cents on it, give an empathetic view on how football is from a human perspective, because I just think that without these players, we don't have the sport that we love. And so I really have some great ideas that are coming to the website. At my core, I'm a writer. I know I've put myself out there and done these podcasts and whatnot. I'm not going to lie. I get very nervous. And that's why I said I don't join a lot of podcasts. I get super nervous on a screen. This isn't like what I feel the most comfortable doing, but I know that's probably a shock to some people reading some of my pretty racy tweets that I put out there. I have a lot coming down the pipeline. So just keep it locked on the website. Also on my YouTube channel, like I said, I'm going to start doing a little bit more of that. And then Instagram, maybe I will have some content on there for reels and whatnot, but we'll see about that. I have so much going on with the baby. I know I say I'm going to do this and that, and then it sometimes doesn't happen. So I don't want to put that pressure on, but the website will be where all the good stuff is.
So Ty said, no one deserves this more. He's so happy for you.
Ty.
Alex Simpson, who was on with me last week. We actually broke YouTube last week. Me and Alec went to go live and YouTube wouldn't work. So we had to jump onto Twitter. Cindy has put congratulations. You definitely deserve it. And yeah, Ty, smash that like button, everyone. I would urge everybody to like, subscribe to both channels. It definitely helps. I've always said to you off air, I'll say it on air, if there's anything that we can do to help, you've just mentioned your YouTube channel. I'm sure with me, Lee, Ty, people in the chat would love to jump on when we get opportunity, but you are a very busy lady. When I was putting the show together tonight and I was looking at everything that you do, and I was thinking, I struggle with the social media for the 49er Faithful UK and the podcast. And like you said, the Awesome Foursome have stepped away at the moment. So I've been left to steer the ship on my own with some help.
You're doing amazing.
Well, got a good team around me. Alex Simpson helped last week. Eric Oregard has been an absolute rock. Neil Graham is coming on next week. So we will be back next Wednesday at 8 p.m. British Standard Time, as I said, with Neil and Eric. And it'll be a very heavy draft show. There's been a few people ask if we will be doing our live mock draft that we usually do. It may not be the Awesome Foursome, but I'm working on something. I'm not great with the technology, Chrissy. So normally Lee runs the mock draft and I just sit here and talk, which is what I'm good at. So to be the one in charge, I'm a little bit nervous when it comes to the technology. And I know Sarah and Gary are working on the live Zoom call because like you, the first round of the draft is on far too late for me and you. I won't be staying up on the Thursday night. I won't be staying up on the Friday. It's Kaylee's 17th birthday that weekend.
Oh my gosh.
So draft weekend for me is I'm just going to kind of be catching up with it on my phone. And I won't be going live over that weekend, basically. And Trey,
you gotta relax. Life comes first, right?
Well, as I said, when we first connected, you were carefree and you were running around doing all this content creating. And then you got married and you and Chris came over to Leeds. And I did want to finish off on that you are a part of the 49er Faithful UK community. Putting together the thumbnail for tonight was very easy. There's the photo of me and you holding the flag. Chris, as a Patriots fan, he came over and I think he was quite impressed with the setup that we had. I know you guys couldn't make London last year, but I know that if London gets announced as the watch party venue this year, I know you and Chris.
It's happening, 100%.
Will be coming straight across.
And I'm not pregnant this time, so I can have the beers with you guys. I'm excited.
but like you, see, if you said to me now I had to do an article for, say, you or John Chapman, I'd be out of my comfort zone. But when I think back to my journey, I started doing this with an iPhone 7 and a pair of headphones.
Wow.
And when I go back and listen to some of my earlier stuff, I think, were people really listening? And like you've said, Pat McAfee is someone that I watch. I watch a lot of YouTube. I don't watch normal TV. And like you said, shoot for the stars. Why not? So I was absolutely delighted that you've chosen to break that news with me. So I said I would only keep her an hour, people. And I know it's approaching that time. And I'm a man of my word, as everybody knows. So all that is left for me to say is thank you so much for joining me. Definitely want you back on the show. I've had a blast. And we will be back next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Stay safe. Go Niners.
Go
We got the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, Deep Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all.